Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here. So it's been some time and I've got a lot of comments on the coding channel, YouTube channel, that please do continue the video, second part and the other parts. So we are going to go ahead with the second part of this video. So in the first part of the video, you would have gone across the first particular interview question, which I had explained in detail as to what to answer and how do you explain your roles and responsibilities as an automation architect. And in this particular video, we are going to continue with the other interview questions. And I'm going to explain. And if in case you need any of the point to be explained in detail and you want me to create another video for the same, please do leave me a comment on the video and I'll be able to create a video on the same in detail. Okay. So let's continue with the second interview question, guys. And if you are new to this channel, I would strongly recommend to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And you'd get a lot of such good, useful tips and interview questions and different tools from the scratch. I'll explain. So the second interview question, which we are going to look at today, is that what are the different coding practices which is followed, okay, during code review? So this is very tricky question, guys, and you have to be very much particular about how do you answer this, because if you answer this to the point, but then they will also go deep into this. So you should talk about solid principles in Java. If you're talking about Java as the programming language being used for your automation programming. Other popular one is KISS principle, which is keep it simple, stupid. Means don't overcomplicate your code, keep it simple and stupid, so that whatever task is required, you are doing that and achieving it in a simpler fashion. Then we have try principle, that is don't repeat yourself. As the name suggests, you should not repeat the code at all anytime in future. Once it is already being used, try to reuse it again by doing modularization. And that way, I mean to say is create functions and call functions as and when needed. Okay. So these are the three popular principles which we need to use when we are using programming languages. And especially in Java, these three for sure are applicable. And you can just mention this. And if in case they ask you to explain in detail, then you go ahead in detail. Don't explain from your side. Keep it short and simple for every interview question. The reason being, as I mentioned in my last video, you have to complete the interview within 1 hour of stipulated time. And that also includes doing the programming question which they are asking you to perform. So they will ask you to share your screen and write a coding or solve a coding question. So including that theoretical, practical interview questions, everything has to get completed within 1 hour. Because remember, the interviewer also is having a busy schedule to follow. They are having their own work. They are having to take other interviews also. So if you take more time, so they will have to cut short the interview and they may not be able to judge you, right, from your experience, what you actually hold the value for the company. They may not be able to evaluate you completely. So keep it short and simple. Third question is that can you design an automation framework from scratch, the one which the candidate has worked on his or her past experience? So it's strongly recommended that you first explain this thing visually in a paint or maybe a word document, whichever you feel is the one which is going to give a good impression to the interviewer. Okay. So for example, I'll just show with paint. Okay. I'll just show with paint a simple example, and you can also try to make it, well visualization you can use to explain it to the interviewer. So let's say, for example, what you have to do is you need to create a block diagram. You need to create a block diagram like this, and inside, just imagine this is like a project, and inside that you're going to have like sub components, right? So have a small components like that created. Just keep the size small because we have to do for multiple components. Okay. Then keep doing this way, and like that you need to create multiple more blocks here. And in these blocks, you're going to show what all components are there of your framework. So this is how we are going to visually explain to the interviewer. You can also do it with the Word document. Okay, now you are going to talk about the different modules which are going to be used here within your framework. So first of all, we are going to discuss as if These are the different modules which are there here. So I'm just going to have a different modularization explanation here. So you would say we will have something like src main, and in that, let's say I'm having one subfolder called utils. So this utils folder is very important because it will store all the utilities which is required for your project, right? Then in the next particular module, you will be having the different programs or scripts. So I'm going to have src main Java. Okay. And in that, you can have a subfolder and you can call it like, for example, application. So these are like not the exact test cases as such. These are some scripts which may be required as a supporting thing for you to be able to do some automation. Okay. Now, there will be another particular important thing which will be required, that is for SRC test. Inside SRC test, there will be something called test scripts. Okay. And all of these are going to be your Java files, right? Then you will have one particular, I'm just going ones which I am, coming to my mind right away. So you can actually make it fine tuned when you try to explain it. You can have one particular thing called config. Okay. So this can be a part of your src main, and you can say config. Okay, this is going to be your like a package kind of a thing, a folder config, and within that you're going to have some config dot properties file. So you can also mention to them that we can have a properties file where we can store our configuration related information. Okay. What else do we require? We also require hooks, right? So what are hooks? We can have a separate video to discuss in detail, but hooks is generally a supporting thing in an automation framework which helps to launch the browser, do certain prerequisites which are required, and then after your execution is also completed, hooks can also play a part in basically terminating and making sure the cleanup activity is also done. So I can have again src main and I can say hooks.java. As I mentioned, in within utils you can have a supporting thing. Let me complete that part as well. You can have a supporting thing, let's say utilities.java. So you can basically have the extension.java for all your files here, right? After that, what else do you require, right? I'm just going to take some time in explaining this thing in detail in this particular session or this particular video. Another thing which you need to have is that you need to have logs, right? Because remember, you are going to capture all this, whatever execution is happening in logs, whatever thing is going to happen is going to get captured in logs. So src main, I'm going to have one folder called logs within src main, and within logs there will be two files. One will be called as selenium logs. Okay, of course we have to write .txt here, and there will be another file inside src main. Okay, so let me just write down that file as well, and that's going to be called as manual logs.txt. Okay, so these two logs are important for you to understand. So we need to have logs, we need to have hooks, we need to have the utilities, automation, yeah, application scripts, test scripts, and what else? Okay, now in case if you are using a page object model design pattern or a page factory, there will be another important component which will be required, that is going to be your, so let me say in src test. Okay, there is something called test cases.java. Means you are going to write test cases. So this is going to be like a folder, and let's say you want to verify login test case, so you can say login test.java. Okay, likewise if you want to have let's say another one which is for, let's say, home page, within each and every individual component you are going to have home page test.java. Like that you will have to keep including the different components here within this kind of a block diagram. Now, another thing which is missing out in the current, whatever we have designed currently, is that there could be another file which is very important, that is for your reports, right? You would be having a requirement that you need to capture the execution report somewhere. So I'm going to say src inside test, I can have reports, and I can say, okay, I just have to squeeze the size here a bit. Just make it visually, yeah, visible. Okay, SRC test reports, and I'm going to say extend reports. Maybe this is one of the reports which is very popular, extend reports. Or we can also have another report called Allure reports. So depending upon which plugin you want to use, report plugin, you can have the reporting mechanism in place, right? So another thing what we can have is that we can have listener. So whatever execution is happening, we can have listeners to listen to it and also accordingly perform certain action. So again, that I'll be including within the path SRC main listeners. Okay, you can have test ng listener, you can have other types of listeners, right? So I can have listener events. And most important thing is that you are going to explain to them that this entire thing is working in a basis of a Mavenized project. So you need to have pom.xml. And this is the core or the heart of your project. It's like a build tool, Maven. So you need to explain that everything, whatever dependency we are going to build, like the Selenium, Java, Maven, whatever reports plugin we require, right? Everything is going to happen via pom.xml. So this you will have to explain in depth these different components and how this Mavenized project works, and also tell them that this all things are having CI/CD connection, like everything is having CI/CD. So this is basically checked into your GitHub repository. So you need to tell that this entire project is actually present in your GitHub repository of your company, of course, because you're going to explain to them as if you're working this for a company project, right? So this is work is basically present in a GitHub check repository. So I'll have a separate video where I'll explain you all how do you do the different things with respect to GitHub. That is to clone a project from GitHub, then doing check-in your changes from local to GitHub, etc. But for now, this is the overview. And you will also mention to them that you would have a CI/CD tool like Jenkins, where you would be able to detect that if any changes are done to this particular project, okay, then it will automatically do run a build on the GitHub repository. So there is a Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. So we can also have a CI/CD pipeline created in Jenkins, which is going to be able to check this GitHub repository, look if there is any changes, and if so, it is going to build it, and that way it's going to be able to do the execution. Okay. So we have seen in depth this particular question, that is, can you design the automation framework from scratch? If you need me to have a separate video created on these principles, do let me know in the comments and I'll be able to create a separate video. So this is the part 2, guys, and stay tuned for my next video, that is the part 3, where I'll go in depth for the next interview question, that is the implement the OOPS concept as a part of your automation framework. Thank you so much.